The Roundtable has returned. Eastern Conference preview episode. We have a panel here full of Eastern Conference people, and then there's me, who got booted out of the Eastern Conference, back to where we came from in Houston, back to the West. So I'll talk more on the next one. We've already dominated all these people in the playoffs anyway, so we'll just go back to where we came from. But, except Toronto, we didn't get to beat them in the playoffs. Oh, wait, never mind.
That one hurt, guys.
So with that, we're going to be previewing the Eastern Conference tonight. 10 teams, 2 new teams, a lot to get to. We're going to try to keep it to about an hour, so we'll see how it goes. I was going to say something else, and now I totally forgot. I had my trusty blue paper. If you've watched the show in the past, I lost it. There's no blue paper. We're basically winging it.
Damn shame.
So if I forget your team, you can yell at us on Twitter. You can personally attack me. I'll try not to forget all the teams. We're going to go in alphabetical order because that only seems fair, and it makes Toronto last. So
where they're nice and comfortable.
Yes, where they like to hang out anyway. This is just getting out of hand already. Poor Rob.
I quit. I'm out.
Rob's off the show. He's now leaving the show with his mustache. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see his awesome mustache. He's embracing the villain role. Okay, so we're going to start with the first team in alphabetical order, the Chicago Fire. They tied, I think, almost every game last season, just about. They finished with 18 ties out of 34 games, which is very hard to do. They finished 9th in the East. They were pretty much down ever since MVP Mike McGee got injured. Things were looking up for them. It was Quincy time for a while, but Harry Shipp had a good game once, I think.
Yeah.
He had a hat trick against somebody, but
yeah.
And then he trolled everyone on Twitter, which was great. But Chicago, the East, I think people have said the East has kind of gotten weaker, I guess for lack of a better term, with Houston and Kansas City leaving, 2 expansion teams coming in. Still, Chicago, they've made some moves. They got, I'm just going to call him Kennedy because his last name's ridiculous.
Big Bon guy.
Yeah, that guy. They got Ackham. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong too. David Ackham.
Sean Maloney.
Sean Maloney. He's a good lad. So they've retooled, but people still are probably seeing them more towards the bottom of the table. Do you guys agree? Even with a healthy McGee back, if he's back, I know he's kind of doesn't.
I actually wouldn't agree with that. I think Jones. I think left back is shady for them because Jones is. I don't know if he's MLS quality. That's a question mark. And then center back, you pretty much have Garrick and Lorenowitz, so that's a question mark too. Otherwise, I think their midfield is strong, and I think attacking-wise they're strong. And then 2, managerially speaking. So, but otherwise, I actually think Chicago. I don't think they'll be one of the lower teams in the East, but it's hard to say otherwise.
Yeah, they catch. I think they need guys like Ameriqua to catch lightning in a bottle again. I don't know if Ameriqua's. I mean, he's a decent striker, but he's not catch the world on fire. If McGee can return to his first season in Chicago form, I mean, obviously he was the MVP.
I think go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say, is there a date for his return? Is there a timetable? Because I know they say he's going to miss the start of the season, but that was back in, October or September, even when he was shut down?
Yeah, I haven't heard much on when he's coming back, but I'll try to look while you guys talk.
I think
But yeah,
after the top four in the East, I think 5 through 10 are kind of up in the air. I mean, just by default, I had Chicago at the bottom of the East, but I could easily see them, possibly squeezing into number 6 and getting into the playoffs. So, when you get to the point of Chicago, Montreal, those two teams I think will probably be battling for the bottom spot. But certain teams and certain guys outperform, their contracts, whatever. Teams could shoot up. The East really is kind of a crapshoot this season, I think.
yeah. I mean, like we said, they had 18 ties. If they turned even half of those into wins, that's 18 more points, which would be huge. So
I think Akam has Fabian Castillo potential this year. I think he could really impress people. I've seen highlights of him that in fact look almost a more polished Castillo. So I think he'll shock people, and I think Chicago could surprise people. But like I said, there are a lot of question marks, so it's justified either way, I think.
yeah, they're kind of like they were last year. They're kind of up in the air. Anyone like you said, Mike, they could be bottom of the East. They could be 5th or 6th. That's kind of a crapshoot for them right now. They have Akam and Maloney and those guys. We got to see how they come into MLS. Obviously, it's the guys that come from overseas. Always, some of them had hit a little bit of a wall with their learning curve. Some of them come right in. So, it'll be one of those. Just kind of have to see how they fit in. I mean, Sean Johnson, obviously, top 3-5 keeper in the league. I know some people hate on him, but
I don't know, man. I think he's
top 10.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's tough to say. He's really inconsistent.
But they also, they got John Bush to back him up, and John Bush is a proven veteran goalkeeper, and
yeah, because Johnson will probably Johnson will be gone with the national team probably at the Gold Cup, yeah. So they'll need Bush to fill in because heaven forbid the league takes a break for the Gold Cup, where its own stars are playing. But that's for a whole nother episode.
And he's playing for his former coach Frank Yallop, so he might get a look just because.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he unseats Johnson unless Johnson starts struggling. Johnson's what, 20? He's 26, 20. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's like early to mid 20, maybe like 25 or something like that. He's still very young for a
Can't
keeper.
think off the top of my head.
He got a new Ferrari, so didn't he win that Ferrari thing? He's rolling. He's 25. He'll be 26 in May. So yeah. He's already made 133 appearances for Chicago. So go ahead, Mike.
The thing about John Bush is he's not the type of guy who's going to want to sit on the bench. I mean, he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, so I think he's really going to push Sean Johnson. I mean, I can't imagine him coming there and just be like, yeah, I'll just sit on the bench for a while. That's not the type of player that he is.
I haven't seen a lot of signs that Bush has been declining either, to be honest. Maybe a little bit last season, but not as much as you'd think for him getting up there as an MLS keeper.
Yeah, no, he had the famous John Bush face with when Martin scored that goal, but I think a lot of people in San Jose were kind of surprised that they didn't try to re-sign him. I mean, obviously they're going in a different direction with Kinnear coming in, but there's a lot of good keepers in MLS already, so it's gonna be, it's hard to crack the lineups, but he's a solid backup, and he'll be able to step right in when Johnson's out, if Johnson gets hurt or anything, or even just to give him a rest. You're probably losing a little bit, but you're not it's not a big fall off from Johnson to Bush, probably. Johnson to Bush. Anyway.
Oh,
Thank you. Be here all week. So anyway, with that, we'll Chicago. We'll ask our famous roundtable preview question: will Chicago make the playoffs? 6 teams now out of 10 make it. Austin, we'll start with you. Chicago, yes or no?
I'll go yes with Chicago.
Oh, looky there, the first surprise.
Well, I think they're going to be a surprise this year.
There you go. Mike, first Mike.
Which Mike?
Just one of you jump on.
no.
There's a no. Mike?
No, I'm gonna have to say no. I think it would be pretty unlikely. Like I said, I have them 10th in the East. So if I'm a betting man, I'm saying no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no too. I think they're 8, 9, 10 range as well. So prove us wrong, Chicago. We'll be here to take it. All right, so moving on to the team with the rebrand. Now Columbus Crew SC, gone are the hard hat men. Rest in peace, fellas. Wherever you've gone to, we're gonna miss you. But they have a one of those few rebrands and logos and kit launches. I don't think they've officially launched it, but I think everyone's seen their new kits that have been widely applauded. People love the new look. And then tomorrow they're making an announcement. They're getting a naming rights deal finally on Crew Stadium.
It's taken 16 years.
16 years to get a name on it. Total-MLS Stadium did not make the cut. We sent in a bid. It was 2 figures, and it didn't make it. So
$99 to
So-
the pre-court.
So sorry, Precourt, we didn't reach the bid. But yeah, they're going to announce that tomorrow, so we'll see as they continue their rebrand. But last year they were, I think, one of the surprise teams. They made the playoffs. They finished the 3rd. Yeah,
Yeah.
They finished 3rd. They got trounced by New England in the first round. Were sent home very quickly by the Eastern Conference champs. But I think a lot of people are looking at them as a team that can win the East this year, especially with DC. I guess DC's the favorite right now. New England, of course. But Columbus is probably one of the top favorites in the East right now. They brought in Kai Kamara back from, I would say, an unsuccessful stint in England.
Yeah.
Oblivion, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. He needed to come back because he had nowhere else to go. But they've got guys who came out of nowhere last year. Obviously, Higuain is a stud. They've got the pieces, I think, definitely to make it to the top of the East. You guys see them as a legit contender?
I have them number 1 in the East. I love Greg Berhalter as a coach. I think Will Trapp is going to be on the next World Cup team. I love that kid's game.
I love Will Trapp.
Absolutely. I think Steve Clark's an underrated goalie. Michael Parkhurst on the defense. I think they're really solid down the spine of the field, and that's really where you're going to be successful. And with the East kind of being wide open right now, I think they're going to take that step forward and win the East.
Yeah, they have that spine. They have, Parkhurst is a rock. Trapp is all over the place. Justin Miram was killing it last year. Chani, they've got.
Team's
got a
really
number
fun
of
to
guys.
watch. They're definitely going to be one of the most enjoyable teams to watch this year, and I easily have them in the top 3 in the East. I would be surprised if they didn't fall in the top 2. In fact, so yeah.
I was going to say I have them at 2 actually, because I have New England at number 1. But don't forget they also got Chris Kloop from Colorado for a bag of balls.
Yeah, that was huge.
That's
And
a really
Ronald
surprise. And he can play on both the left and the right, so whoever's missing out of that back line, I think in the East, to be one of the top 3 teams, you're going to need a standout defense, and I think
and
they have both.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the list of players they lost, it's not that bad compared to who they brought in. I mean, Kamara, he could be hit or miss, in all honesty, but they have a stud, like you said, in Higuain. It's just, I mean, the only one thing is, Eric Gehrig. They lost a little bit of MLS experience on the back line, but they brought in a good defender, and then they brought in MLS experience as well. So
Yeah, they lost to Noor, who I always liked Noor, but I don't think he never really had a spot in that team. He was always kind of.
yeah, he was all over the place in their lineup.
I mean, him and Miram kind of had like similar years. Miram was probably talked about because he was scoring, the big exciting goals. But Noor, and he was a good contributor. But I think that trade actually was really important and vital for them to make because it led to the more depth coming in and a lot of new moves. So.
Yeah, they have, like you guys said, they have the depth. They've got, they have guys everywhere, it seems, and quality guys. They're young. I mean, they're pretty young almost everywhere, which is big.
Yeah.
They're kind of growing together still, and like you said, under Berhalter, who's a great coach already, so they have everything going. Plus, they have their rebrands, so people are
Excited again
in Columbus. Yeah, they're.
Hey, speaking of the rebrand, what are your guys' thoughts on the logo?
I like it. I think they did it.
Fun.
I think they did a great job. I mean, they had nowhere to go but up from the hard hat guys. But
yeah.
I mean, I like SC. I think we don't have enough SCs, but that's just me.
Right. No, I mean it's simple, but I do like it.
Yeah, I think simple is better in this sport, to be honest.
Their color scheme is good too. They're they don't have any. There's no other yellow teams. I mean,
in terms of emblems, that is, by the way, not necessarily kits, but emblems. Simple is better for me.
I thought the
Borussia
logo
Dortmund
was a little underwhelming. Actually, there seemed like in the middle of it, there's just too much going on. Like you have stripes, then you have square. It was just weird. I'm not a big fan of it. Actually, I was a little disappointed, but overall, it seemed pretty favorable.
Yeah, it's a little too. I mean, they have the checkers and like the little diagonal stripes and.
I see what you mean. I can't say I didn't like it, but I do see what you mean. It's mismatchy.
It's simple, but it's also kind of has some other elements in it that are.
It's hectic.
The 96 was important too.
The 96 is cool.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
that.
sure.
I think they pissed off a lot of their fans by changing their hashtag, which is like shows you the world we live in now. They now use Crew SC instead of. Or CCSC instead of Crew 96, which
I
is
didn't
like.
know that, to be honest. I've been using Crew 96 still for like months.
If that's their biggest gripe with their front office, they need to take a back seat.
Yeah, that's how good their off season was. They're complaining about hashtags.
Relax.
Like, damn, this hashtag's ridiculous. How could we lose Crew 96? It was the best.
Hashtag worst off season ever.
Yeah. All right, so we all have Columbus top 3, I think, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
No chance they don't make the playoffs. You got any of you think they can win the East?
I mean, I have them too, but I think it's going to come down to who loses more national team players from the Gold Cup and stuff like that. Because them in New England to me are just like neck and neck. The only thing is New England, I guess, has quote unquote a bit more playoff experience, but that's not going to be until worried about until the end of the season. But I think they can win the East in the regular season, although I do have them too.
All right, moving on to the team that won the East in the regular season, at least last year, DC United, who went down to Costa Rica and got a not good result. Mr. Dykstra, yikes! Not a good night for not a good night for United's backup keeper, but Bill Hamid will be back in the regular season, so they shouldn't have to worry about Dykstra too much. They're probably going to be going home on Wednesday night out of the Champions League, so they can turn all their attention back to the MLS season if and when it starts. So they're pretty much, they bring back pretty much a similar lineup to what they had last year. They bring in Halsti from, was he Finnish?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Eddie Johnson is mysteriously ill, or something's going on with Eddie Johnson. Hopefully he gets better soon, because we love to talk Eddie Johnson on the Roundtable.
Maybe he got sick from swimming and all his money.
He did get paid.
Or arrogance.
Oh. But yeah, they brought in Halsti. They still have, their core of guys: Boswell, Arno, Pontius, Rolf, De Leon. You guys, if you watched them play the other day, that was close to a first 11, I would think. Luis Silva's probably in there when he's healthy. And then obviously Hamid would be in goal. But and speaking of good coaches, Ben Olsen did turn them from crap last year. The year of crap in 2013 to first in the East regular season last year. So I think they're kind of like Columbus, wherein they're going to be there, I think, all year towards the top. Do you guys see them going lower than 5?
I have them making the playoffs, but not high up. 5 or 6, I think. Because, like you said, Eddie Johnson's out. Fabian Espindo's missing the first 6 games of the season. That's pretty big for them. They have a good midfield balance, but that's if De Leon can stay healthy and Pontius can stay healthy and they can actually produce on the field. They've had a rough couple of years, those two guys. And like if Luis Silva gets healthy also, because he's injured right now, so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
he's hurt.
So,
I think he's training. I think they held him out.
So if they can get their attacking options back on the field to link up with Pontius and De Leon, they should have an all right. But I think a lot of people figured them out. I think a lot of people were surprised by them last year. I think, they were kind of the Red Bulls last, like they'll be the Red Bulls this season as the Red Bulls were last season. A lot of teams figured out their style of play. They didn't really do too much changing. Only brought in a couple players here or there. So, in MLS, it's all parity.
Sure.
Yeah, they have, I think it's probably good for them if they go out of the Champions League, which is, obviously weird to say, but it's one of those things that teams get the fixtures built up and because DC, we know DC will go for it. They're one of the teams that doesn't just not give a crap in the Open Cup. They actually try. So they'll be trying to go through all those games. And then if they had Champions League backup, they're in it again the next one, right?
Yeah, because they finished first in the opposite conference with the Supporter Shield winner. Yeah,
so they'll have that coming up, I guess, in the fall, towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to me, they're one of those teams that I just pencil into the playoffs. They're going to be 3rd or 4th, and they're not they're not going to be sexy about it, but at the end of the I mean, except Ben Olsen and his beard, but and his sweet get up. But I mean, there's really nothing you can say more about them other than they're probably going to be there. Can they do it in the playoffs? Last year they were the 1 seed. They got knocked out the first round by New York. This year they were the 1 seed in the Champions League. They're about to get knocked out by Alajuelense. So they have to prove that they can do it in the playoffs or in that atmosphere.
I think they'll fight to make the playoffs. To be honest, I think them making the playoffs could actually depend on how surprising Chicago are, because I think like they're amongst those teams that'll fight to hop into 5 or 6 range. I think injuries, PCL, everything we really mentioned, like you said, there's not really anything else to mention here, could all contribute to them not making the playoffs, but they do lean towards them. I don't know. I could see them easily not making the playoffs, to be honest with you. Same time.
Ouch.
I have a pretty solid and 4.
That's probably
I think
my
they're
surprise, not playoff team, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think them sitting in the top 4 is more likely. You know, we were talking earlier, anything 5 to 10 is kind of up in the air. But I think DC's on the latter stage of the top 4. You know, I'd be hard pressed, Sporting Kansas City and Houston leaving, to think a team like DC would just drop out completely. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened in MLS, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna say they're in like 4th. Austin, you've got them out with your next surprise.
You can say that.
The Mike and Mike, our own version of Mike and Mike. You guys have them in.
Yes.
Yep.
Probably 4th or 5th in that area.
Tyler, welcome into the show.
Hey-o.
He can't hear us. He has no mic. He's just standing watching. Rob is back. Rob is back though with his mustache.
Glad to be back.
DC in the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. There you go. We just throw him back in on the spot. He responds like nothing. All right. So moving on to the next team, who again I don't have my sheet of paper. Should be New England, correct?
Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. How could I forget Montreal? Rob, look at that.
I almost said Houston.
That was Rob's fault. I almost skipped the white and blue team in Canada. Man, that would have been bad.
The Whitecaps? I don't know.
The Whitecaps, that's just wrong. MLS, I'm looking at the MLS clubs page on my iPhone, and for Eastern Conference it says Chicago, Columbus, DC, Houston, New England, New York Red Bulls, Montreal, Philadelphia, Sporting Kansas City, Toronto. So they need to go ahead and update that.
Yeah, they do.
And put it in order. So Montreal. We go to Montreal next. They are a shock result, I think everyone can say, even after being up 2-0 and they kind of let Pachuca back into it, but they have the 2 away goals coming home. And they get to play DC in the first game of the season if the season starts on time. So the 2 Champions League teams will play each other. So not really an advantage for either one. They've kind of I think they shocked a lot of people last week just because people had no idea who the heck they were. guys like Dilly Duca have been around, but they have their new center back. Simon, I think
Simon, yeah.
Laurent, I think he's one of the. I mean, people aren't talking about him, but that's probably one of the biggest signings of the off season. I mean, that guy is really good. He's solid. DeVayo's gone, so they don't have to. They won't be offside 17 times a game anymore. Justin Mapp, who the Montreal fans will tell you should be on the national team. Obviously had a decent game. Dilly Duca, I mean, if he can play anywhere near what he did in Mexico. The guy's going to be an all-star.
He's good.
I mean, they're one of those East teams that's kind of like, well, maybe they're 5th, 6th. Wouldn't be surprised if they're 8th, 9th, you know.
I have them in the playoffs. After the CL, I'm going to put them in the playoffs. I was already on the fence about them, kind of like DC. But Saman is a Defender of the Year candidate for me. Piazzi is probably one of the better cams / wingers in the league. And then Duca, Romero, Mapp, McInerney, who might not even start. So you have so many pieces there. I think they could definitely make the playoffs.
Yeah, everyone was talking about they're missing their target forward and stuff last week. They need a target forward. Isn't that what they brought in McInerney for? I mean, kind of the heir apparent to DeVio.
Yes, there are all those rumors about them trying to bring in a big foreign striker. That
Gilardino.
I figured they would rely on McInerney, but they might want the speed and the strength of the Duro and that horrible elephant touch of his.
Oh, I forgot Dom Oduro and his awesome hair.
That is awful.
Well,
He has like a concrete block on his foot when he touches the ball.
Yeah. I was going to say... Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I don't trust their... Outside of Piatti, I don't really trust their attacking core. I mean, you lose DeVio. I don't think Jack Mack can be reliable. They brought in Adoro, who, like you said, is concrete foot. He's just not, unless he's playing the Red Bulls, sometimes he's not good. And the other guys they signed were all through the draft. So, and they have a really good midfield. Their defense could be questionable, although Simon seems to be really, really good. And I think if they make a run to the playoffs, if we'd have Kaká and David Villa and Lampard and Gerrard, he probably could win Newcomer of the Year. But I think with that list, one of those guys is going to just win it just because it's right now it's MLS.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't see him being Player of the Year or anything, but
I think if they did make it, he could be a candidate for it. He'd be one of the reasons why they would make it. They would go from worst to first. They'd pull a DC United practically. I think he'd be a big reason why.
And his name's Nacho, which is pretty sweet. Just wanted to call him.
I think they're losing Felipe Martins hurts too. I mean, I think he was, a transaction that the Red Bulls made that is kind of, it's looked over. I think Montreal losing him is a bigger deal than people are making it out to be.
Well, yeah, I like Felipe, and he added a young, creative sense in the middle of the field for them. But at the same time, he actually probably had his worst year last year since joining Montreal. And if Donadell and Rio Coker can play anything like they did against Pachuca, they'll do well. But that's a 30-year-old center mid partnership combined. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're up there.
Yeah, and then Oyongo hasn't reported, right? So they didn't even get Montreal.
So,
yeah, that's true.
Herrera and Toya play like they did against Pachuca, and I've seen things about them. They're pretty promising. And of course,
I liked Toya the other day. He played well. I mean, he's definitely a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Montreal, I'm gonna say no on them. They're 7-8ish, just missing out. Rob, I know probably know where you're gonna go with this. Probably 11th or 12th. Where are you gonna put them?
They get relegated.
There you go. Montreal back to where they came from in USL.
That's impossible.
I think they'll improve on what they did last season, but I can't see them in the playoffs again.
Tyler, he is alive.
Yeah.
He's joining us. You're now being thrown into this. Montreal in the playoffs or not?
No. Nope,
There you go.
I don't think so.
Mike?
No, I haven't finished
I-
bottom in the East.
I have him 9th.
Bottom. Ouch. Mike, again.
Yeah, I have him 9th in the East. I just don't see him really going any farther than that.
No one's giving them the respect that you are, Austin. Having them making the playoffs. It's okay.
Sorry,
They're on
Rob.
their own, but that's all right. All right, so moving to New England. Didn't want to skip Montreal. So New England, they had a really crazy season where they lost like 9 in a row or something. They won a bunch in a row. They got Jermaine Jones out of an envelope, and then they went to the MLS Cup final. I think that's New England's season in a nutshell. They brought back Juan Agudelo from wherever he was hiding. They so I mean I don't think they lost too much. Chris Tierney's gone to
AJ Soares.
Norway.
Yeah,
Soares. Yeah, not Tierney. Sorry, Soares. Soares went to Norway. Viking.
yeah.
So that's a big loss. They'll probably move Farrell, I guess, into the middle.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, Vikings, pretty sweet name. Yeah. So Farrell will probably move inside. They have Lee Wynn had an MVP season, probably one of the best seasons and midfielders ever had in MLS. Agudelo back just gives them another guy for Wynn to link up with. I think a lot of us probably have them. I have them top of the East.
Top 3.
Top of
Top
the-
3.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think they're top.
It kind of hinges on the Alston Farrell thing. I think Farrell might actually have more potential at center back, but how well can Alston do at right back?
Yeah. I agree with Austin. I think that's their big question mark. What if? And the only thing that would hold them back from a top spot in the East is if Kevin Alston can go, or even Farrell can't go a full season at center back. He's never played there. It's a much different game than playing right back in MLS.
He played there some last year, but he also
Not for a full season, no.
not for a full season. But I think I remember he played against Philly. I think he actually scored an own goal that game, if I can recall correctly.
Wasn't he a center back in college?
I don't know. I feel like that moving him to center back negates his speed, which is what he's primarily known for. So
Not necessarily, because you're running backwards all the time as a center back.
having watched Marvell win for the last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah,
I can tell you that speed is not all it's cracked up to be as a center back. So
sure, but Farrell has the strength.
See, I'll go against that because I'll go Olave, and I think
Yeah.
Farrell was more in the mold of an Olave, where closing speed he can always catch up to someone and make that last minute save before a goalkeeper has to make a play.
But you're right about Wynn. It's just that Wynn, I feel like, doesn't have the strength and height factor that Olave or Farrell do, per se.
well, I think he has the strength. The height might be a thing, but
Yeah, just big body.
no, that's fair. Olave, I think, is a better defender too. I'm not sure how good Farrell is. One-on-one defense, team defense, movement. Center back it's a big responsibility for him.
Test his brain, for sure. Zonally speaking. Can't hear you, Dustin. Or can we?
I don't think he's talking.
Nah, he was just moving his lips.
Can't hear you.
It's very low. But so we'll talk while he gets situated. I think getting Agudelo back to kind of pick up the slack that Davies and Bunbury can potentially leave on the field is a really huge thing for them. Now they have a proven goal scorer up top, I think. who's if he reaches his potential, man, oh man, that's going to be a crazy, scary attack with him and Win and Rowe.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Win and Rowe. Kind of rhymes. So, New England, first, second, third.
I got him top 3.
I got
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to push them below that, but who knows, man? It's MLS. I mean, they could end up
Yeah,
fifth.
the East is really competitive this year. I would say the East might be more competitive than it's ever been this year, to be honest. I don't really have anything to add to that.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
true.
I think it's more. I think it's more wide open, kind of like how we mentioned earlier. Plus, like you said, Tyler, the MLS. I mean, there are teams that go worst to first to worst. So you never know. Just when you think you have this league figured out, that you have no idea what you're talking about. Or at least that's how I feel every season.
No,
That's the beauty of it.
I mean, the Rebels did it 2009 to 2010. They went from worst in the East to first in the East. Then DC did it last year. So it's it's been done multiple times the last year. Unlike the West, where it's always those same few teams up at the top.
And the Rapids won the East that year too, so that's cool.
Yeah, won the East in the playoffs.
Yeah, we won the East, man. That was the best.
Yep.
So I think we have our illustrious leader back.
I think we're back.
Oh, I heard him.
Here he is.
I can
hear me now?
A little bit.
Okay.
There you
I
go.
think I'm here.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go, man.
All right. I was trying to talk about Diego Fagundes and how I picked him
Yeah, I
to
was
win
going
the
to ask
Golden
you
Boot.
about him too. I don't remember his last name, and I feel like a jerk. Like,
And then
God.
people knowing, I think Seth must have gotten my account and thrown me off the thing. He didn't like that. But yeah, I would just appreciate if Diego Fagundes didn't make me look foolish again this year. Maybe score more than 4 goals or whatever he scored. If he could do that, that'd be nice. So you guys talked about New England.
Well, if you
else to
look
say
at
on
a
that?
treacherous bitch and go to not US and
Honestly, we can move on to New York City now. We pretty much all said where we thought.
Austin's like, I don't want to talk about New England anymore.
I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe we would show more love.
I think I'm out again.
So NYCFC. Let's go with them now.
the other blue team.
Let's go with them. You guys hear me still?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
kind of fuzzy, but yes.
It's kind of fuzzy in my ear. I'm just gonna start you guys and then restart it. So yes, New York City FC, the team that everyone has loved to hate, as the Telegraph called them. And go ahead. The floor is yours.
Does anybody have them making the playoffs?
No.
I have them missing. I have them
Yeah,
in 7th.
I think I have them missing too. I think.
Oh, God, you guys are going to make me be that
Yeah.
asshole.
I've got asshole 2 times, so go for it.
I think they make the playoffs. I think they'll be the lowest seed, but I think they'll make the playoffs. It's a Christ-led team. They're extremely resilient, if nothing else. And he's just going to be prepared. So, I don't know. We'll see.
See, that's the one thing that keeps them. I have them 7th right now, and I have them battling with Toronto, Rob. So you'll be out by that for the last spot in the playoffs. And I think Toronto's going to edge them. Don't ask me why. That's my gut feeling. There's going to be a lot of back passes from Mehdi Bellucci this year because that's what he does. He never passes forward. He only passes backwards.
At all.
Well, then next year when NYC sells him, they're going to win the cup because of the Bellucci curse. So it's going to be great. Mark that down. NYCFC next season, they're winning the cup if they get it.
I think a big X factor for them is actually going to be Thomas McNamara from Chivas USA, who they acquired from DC. If he recovered from his ACL, I think that will be a huge thing for them. Because it's also going to depend on how Christ lines up. They really don't have a true defensive midfielder, so he really can't play the diamond. because as everyone's pointed out, including Matt Doyle, they don't have a destroyer to sit in front of their back line, and their back line has however many preseason games they've played together, and that's it. You know, these guys are coming from all walks of life, whether it is MLS or outside.
What position did that kid play that they got from Man City on loan?
What's his name?
He's a defender, I think. I can't remember his name.
Just wondering if maybe they're going to make him run at CDM and play that role, but I don't know. I didn't see.
Is that
They officially announced that, right?
Hmm?
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, I think.
Officially?
I don't. No, I'm trying to look on the MLS site for it. I don't see it.
Yeah, it may not have been official yet. It may just be.
Yeah, I
don't know if it's official or not. I just saw it on.
I retweeted that like a few days ago, but
Yeah, exactly. I think it may have been you that I saw it from, but I didn't see what position he played. I just
think he's a fullback. If I had to make an educated guess, I didn't really know much about him, and I used to be a City fan too, so I don't. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Mix is actually. Well, I mean, sure, he's creative and everything, but I do have question marks as to how successful he'll be in the league this year. Yeah, that's just something to think about too, I guess.
I think without that Beckerman type, defensive midfielder, or like you guys kind of mentioned, I really think that is the one thing that's going to keep them from making the playoffs, even with 6 teams making the playoffs, because that's the most pivotal position in that formation. So without somebody really pulling the strings there, it's going to be tough for them.
Right. I think Jacobson could maybe play, and this is a big maybe, but maybe he could play out of his skin a little bit. And yeah, Facey, who is going on loan, he's listed as a defender here in the article. So.
How much does Lampard coming later on in the season impact them? Do you think it hurts them, or I mean, we know the quality level of player he is, but after playing a full season in the EPL, how ready is he going to be to contribute right away for them?
Do we know where they're going to look to line him up exactly?
No, I mean he has, since he hasn't been with them, no preseason, no games, no nothing really. Maybe they'll try and use him if they go to like a 4-2-3-1 alongside.
Has playing his typical formation in preseason? Does anybody know?
He did do the Diamond 1 game, I believe, and I don't think it worked out really well for them. I think that's what prompted all the articles on them needing a defensive mid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would guess he lines up kind of like a 10. But then if he does, he might end up being more of an 8 maybe too, because Mix really can only be a 10, I feel like. Well, technically, in Norway, Mix kind of played a holding mid with more attacking responsibilities, and not necessarily the defensive part of it. Not a defensive mid, but a holding mid. That slot.
Did he have a defensive mid? Did he have a partner alongside him?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically two holding mids in the role he played, and I think that's where he thrived the most. So I don't. Mix is a tough player for me. So I don't know how he's going to do this year.
Oh, no,
combined. So.
If Christ is really set on doing the diamond as the season unfolds, maybe throw Mix up at the top and Frank at the bottom. I don't know in terms of Frank's legs, because he would have come from a pretty long season. I don't know. That's something maybe he could look into.
Right. All right. So I guess let's say where we have them left off. I feel like we've been on NYC for a while.
I have them seventh.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't have them making the playoffs. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I've got them outside the playoffs too.
I have them just squirting in.
So
That was
does
a-
that mean that's